Have you considered how you'll eventually be in the future with your own family and children? It's very important to think about how you'll feed and nourish your own children of the future. Today, I will argue that breastfeeding is the best option when it comes to feeding a child. I will explain the problem with feeding children formula, as well as several reasons why breastfeeding is indeed the best and most nutritional option, as well as my own mother's experience breastfeeding my brother and I. Okay, so here's for the problem. Formula does not provide enough nutrients to sufficiently nourish and develop an infant. That will lead into a person, of course. Women do initially breastfeed according to the CDC. 83% of women do try to breastfeed, but those women do quit too quickly. The American Academy of Pediatrics recommends that children are breastfed exclusively for the first 6 months of their lives. Women are not doing that according to the American Academy of Pediatrics. They recommend that children are breastfed for the first 6 months, and then after 12 months, other feeding options can be introduced, but they need to exclusively be breastfed for the first 6 months. The AAP has even gone as far as to issue a statement in 1997 urging mothers to breastfeed, as there was an increasing spark in the sale of formulas, which has, of course, lessened the number of women that are breastfeeding, which of course creates a problem because there are less women breastfeeding, and that means that children are not being developed properly. Okay, so some of the benefits of breastfeeding, or the evidence that supports that breastfeeding is the best option. So breastfeeding can help protect an infant from common childhood infections, the most fatal being sudden infant death syndrome, which is a major problem when it comes to having an infant, because that's one of the biggest reasons why an infant would die without, of course, like some kind of accident. So the fact that breastfeeding lessens the chance of sudden infant death syndrome is a very important thing to consider. Breastfeeding also reduces the risk of asthma, allergies, obesity, and type 2 diabetes. And this is also an important piece of evidence to support why breastfeeding is the best option, because these are not only things that affect a child as they're a child, but also into adulthood, as getting type 2 diabetes or having obesity can shorten the lifespan tremendously. So these are things that a mother can do day one and in the first couple of years of a child's life to, of course, lengthen that life in the future as that child becomes an adult. Also, breastfeeding breast milk contains all of the nutrients needed for a child to sustain itself and to develop properly, while formula does not, and there are lacking certain things, which is why other nutrients that are not being absorbed through formula need to be supplemented, which creates a huge problem because some mothers may not know what their formula is missing, and then they will not supplement that, and it could lead to developmental issues. Also, the mother experiences some benefits also from breastfeeding. The mother can also have a reduced risk of breast cancer and ovarian cancer. And like I said, these benefits and these health benefits are very important to consider, because if the mother has a reduced risk for cancers, of course, it can be in the child's life longer. And this is something that's breast cancer, or reduced risk of breast cancer, is very significant, because there are many, many women that are diagnosed in America and all around the world with breast cancer. So reducing the risk of breast cancer can be very significant, which is a great reason why women should breastfeed. Okay, so some would say that So first off, my own mother's experience with breastfeeding. My mother had a very easy time breastfeeding my brother, Elijah. He's my older brother, so he came first. She experienced lots of bonding from that. It was simple, it was easy, it was effective. She didn't have any complications with him. And then when I came around, I had a hard time grabbing on and taking all the milk necessary. So it caused a little bit of a panic with my mother because she was afraid that I wasn't getting fed properly. So she would go to the doctor to see what she could do. But eventually but there wasn't really much they could do besides to give her tips on how to keep me attached. But she was resilient, and she did eventually, I did eventually begin to take out the milk that was necessary. So when I did that, she realized how much stress me not breastfeeding had put on her, and it created a lot more joy and happiness and bonding between my mother and I as a baby, because she was finally able to succeed and breastfeed, which she felt like was her, responsibility as a mother. So that was something, when she told me, that was very, impactful on me as potentially having my own children one day. Okay, so what about all the other reasons why formula may be a good option for feeding a child? Okay, so if formula wasn't a good option, it wouldn't be on the market. That's what one person would say. And that may be true, okay? But you have to look at it this way. So formula does provide some nutrients for a child, but it will be in the same way as, okay, you can go and you can get fast food, which may have some benefits, some nutrients, but you know that you're not properly being nourished. You know there's still something that you're missing. As where you would go and you would eat a healthy and balanced diet, and you're like, okay, this is good. Now I can have energy to do other things, to be healthy in other ways, and that promotes like a better mental health, as where mental health and physical health, as to where the same thing would be with formula versus breast milk. Yes, there are some health and nutrients, some benefits, but it's not going to completely balance your diet. It's not going to give you everything that you need. Also, formula has been marketed for years as, an alternative to breast milk. And like I said earlier, though it may be somewhat beneficial, it doesn't provide everything that you need. And just because it's marketed heavily does not mean that it is for the best. Okay, so, and also another reason why these statements would be not fully supported as to why formula would be a good option. Nursing is better for development. It has been proven that nursing is better for development because certain nutrients would be lacking. And also, as we mentioned earlier, breast milk helps to lessen the potential for diseases, including sudden infant death syndrome, which is really important when having an infant, because there is a chance that could happen and you would lose your baby from that. And also, we can't forget that there are also benefits for the mother as well. So when you consider all of this, it's very clear that the best option is breast milk, even though formula does have some nutritional value. Okay, so today I argued, or rather, today I argued why the best option for feeding an infant is through breast milk. I argued this by showing evidence that supports the benefits of nursing, as well as telling my own mother's story, and showing you guys the problem that lies in formula versus breast milk, and the difference in developmental nutrients that are needed to sustain an infant. So hopefully I've given you something to consider when you think about having your own family one day. And thank you so much for listening to my speech. Have a great day.